Hi, my name is Kevin, and I collect old irons. There are two major groups of old iron trading cards. One is those put out by the Enterprise Manufacturing Company, and the other group is from the American Machine Company. Both are from Philadelphia, PA. The companies are somewhat related. Indeed, each of these companies at one time owned one half of the Mary Florence Potts patent. We did a video on the Enterprise cards about 2 years ago. For those cards, there is a documented record within the Advertising Trade Card Quarterly, unfortunately a defunct magazine, and these illustrate about 100 Mrs. Potts cards associated with the Enterprise Company. Unfortunately, there's no published documentation of the American machinery cards, but with help from George Snitzer Jr., we can make an accounting for these. And we do plan to write up a more detailed article on these in a future issue of Pressing News. Besides this well-known card, which is of larger size, about 5 inches across, there are also, to our knowledge, 3 different American machine trade cards that show Mrs. Potts irons and additional cards that show machine fluter irons. The rest of the cards shown in this video are of fairly typical trade card size, a bit more than 4 inches across. This is the most common of the American Machine Company Potts cards, and I will call this the Rose card. This has compliments American Machine Company essentially stamped on the front of the card. There are also varieties that do not have the stamping or have American Machine Company in the lower right corner. The lower left corner usually lists a local company that sells these cards. Values of these common cards are maybe $10 to $12. This second card is what I will call the Fairies card, as this has a fairy with wings on each side of the iron. This card is also quite common, and I have one example of this that has some printing on the back and also a handwritten inscription that includes a date, January 21st, 1885, which gives us some idea of when these cards were used. There is a third card, which to my experience is a little less common, and I will call the 3 Children card, which has 2 girls on the left and a boy on the right of the Potts iron. However, the trade cards that are of particular interest to me, and I think most iron collectors in general, are the cards that illustrate machine fluters. George and I have, between us, 9 essentially different cards, and there are some varieties on the front image and quite a lot of various advertising on the back of some cards, while other cards are blank. But first, we should remind ourselves of some of the machine fluters put out by the American Machine Company. Here are 5 of these fluters. This is the original Susan Knox, this is the Crown, this is the American, this is the Pen, and this is the Star. Most or all of these probably derive from the Susan Knox 1866 patent, which has 2 posts that support the 2 rollers, and it has a lifter on the back that allows you to feed the cloth through. And there also is the 1877 Albrecht patent, which was for a clamp adjusted that actually rotates and can bolt this down to a table. The Susan Knox iron does not have a card associated with it, and that might be because that iron predates the time when these other cards were put out. The patent dates on these irons, as well as evidence from the cards, suggest that these machine fluters were made starting in the late 1870s, and some of these were marketed right into the early 1900s. The 4 that we have here are all very common. The cards are also very common. We will see the irons individually as we look at the cards that depict them as well. The Crown is probably the most common of the machine fluters, and this appears to generally be derived directly from the Susan Knox. Same lift mechanism, same general design. And this is the card which advertises the Crown fluter, which here sits on a cart being pulled by 2 girls with a boy walking alongside. The American is maybe the second most common of the machine fluters. This one has a latch on the side which lowers the bottom roller. Here is the American fluter card with 3 children viewing the iron. There are variations of this card, one of which includes the patent date, August 19th, 1879, which suggests that these cards were probably distributed in the late 1879 and maybe through the 1880s. The pen fluter has a lifter on the top and is associated with 2 cards. I will call this the pen fluter with 4 dancing children card. There are varieties. Here is the same card, but the pen here has been taken out and has instead been replaced by a welcome title. I've never seen a welcome fluter. And this is the pen fluter on a gondola card. Both these cards are fairly common, though they plainly are made by different artists. The star fluter has rollers that extend beyond the extent of the base, and I should tell you these come in all kinds of different sizes, and that kind of variability is true for all the irons we're seeing here. And here is the star card. But there is a question here. Here is an eclipse card. Note that the iron is quite similar and maybe identical to the iron illustrated with a star card, and the children are similarly posed. What is happening here, I don't know. Perhaps the cards were being prepared while the irons were still in design and the names had not yet been decided on. And we have 3 more cards, but these are for irons that are less common and for which I do not have examples to show. The cards also are less common. This is the card for the Union fluter, which is generally similar to the American fluter. It looks to me that the artist for this card might be different from all the other cards. Perhaps the Union iron was a later marketing of the American fluter. This is the Erie card for the Erie fluter. The Erie fluter is fairly rare, and the card is uncommon as well. The fluter depicted here is exactly the same image as shown on the next card, but the iron here is labeled as the Eclipse. However, this is not like any Eclipse iron that I have seen, so I'm guessing that this card represents something of a mistake. Perhaps the card was made before the names were finalized, or something to round out a set of other cards. There is variety among these cards. Sometimes the colors vary. Also, the back of the cards vary as well. Many of the backs are blank, but sometimes there is an advertisement, but the backs vary between one otherwise identical card and another. The backs may provide more information on the iron illustrated on the front, or information for another American machine product, or information on the merchants that is selling these. Iron collectors might put these cards to good use by putting together a frame display that can be used to decorate a wall or the collection in general. These cards in general are worth $8, $15, maybe $20 depending on condition, but you will see on eBay dealers are advertising these things for $50, $60, I've seen $100 or more dollars. There are a lot less people buying these cards than are dealers selling these things, so if you are patient, the price will be had for much less, and I've bought a fair number of these cards for less than $10 a piece. And one more thing, while looking for American machine cards on eBay, I find that there are American machine cards for a lot of other products as well. Here is a card for an American machine ice cream maker, and another card for an American machine washer wringer. So in conclusion, these trade cards are beautiful, they are affordable, they make a nice complement to your collection, and they're a good research tool. Gives you a good sense of what was out there at this period of time, and we've used these cards abundantly in various of our videos. We much enjoy doing these videos, and in particular we enjoy the correspondence we get from the audience, people with questions, people showing us things that they have, and so forth. So please post your comments on YouTube or send emails to me directly, and we'll look forward to seeing you again.